Live tonight from the virtual Crandon International Off-Road Raceway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the S2 Motorsports Shenandoah Shine Group Therapy 100. We're happy that you're spending your evening with us here on Racecraft TV. We're alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, happy to be joined by Josh DeBalee and Ian Fisher. Josh also pushing the buttons and bringing us to you this evening. And we've seen so many different, unique off-road events here, Josh, on Racecraft TV, from Vors to the Mount Washington Hill Climb and more. But I don't think we've ever seen any event quite like this Group Therapy 100 here on iRacing. It should be a thrilling night of multi-class off-road racing at the Big House. There's nothing quite like it.
Well, what is multi-class racing all about? It's about putting multiple different cars on a racetrack at once with a lot of speed difference in between them. You think of the 24 Hours of Daytona, you have the prototypes that are screaming across that track. You have the GT3s, which are a little bit slower, and then normally you have a third class that is much slower than that. So you need to navigate around those other race vehicles. Here at Crandon, we have the Pro 4 trucks, arguably the fastest of them. Then you go to the slower Pro 2 light trucks. Then you go to the Subaru WRX, and then you go to the VW Beetle Lite. So you have four completely different cars that we'll dive into in a little bit, Evan, but so many different vehicles to choose from, and a lot of for these drivers to navigate in the faster classes.
And when we typically see a race in the short course world on the Stimmy, and here at Crandon, we're typically talking about the Pro 4s or the Pro 2s. We're talking about 6-lap heat races, right? 10-lap features. I mean, we're talking about sprint races at this 1.5-mile full layout. A totally different story tonight racing for upwards of an hour and a half.
Yeah, you're right. And these rallycross drivers and off-road drivers are used to sprints, like you said. So this is a completely different ball game. This is going to be an endurance race. This is also going to be a team race. So these guys are going to have to remember that they're going to have to switch out drivers, which we'll get into a little bit more later. But it's going to be a real tough challenge for all these drivers. But I will say this, Evan, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I bet it's going to be even more fun to drive.
Well, let's talk shop, Josh, and talk more about those vehicle classes. As you mentioned, 4 different classes going to be on track at the same time. We'll obviously crown it overall winner by the end of the night. We fully expect that to be in the unlimited truck class, but there are going to be class winners in all 4. As mentioned, the Pro 4 off-road truck is the unlimited truck, and then the Pro 2 light truck representing the limited truck class. Then we have a couple of rallycross cars in this one. The unlimited car will be that Subaru WRX STI, and the limited car is the Volkswagen Beetle Lite. So like you mentioned, we're going to see some of those same dynamics that you would see in a Rolex 24 or any other kind of multi-class road race here on track tonight. But I think an important thing to note as well is that this is a race that's not going to have any caution flags, first and foremost. But one thing that we were discussing before we went on the air tonight, the fact that as well there will not be any damage. Damage is going to be turned off as to not see groups of drivers wreck out early in this race. And not that that means you want to get physical, because I think tonight's going to come down to not who's perfect, but who has the least major mistakes over the course of this long run. But I think watching those different classes interact is certainly going to be crucial.
And I think, like you mentioned, Evan, watching the classes work around each other is going to be crucial. I definitely think we're going to see a lot of people from the slower classes really get into their own races. We're going to see the Pro 4 drivers racing around those races in the other classes. We've seen it before in endurance racing. We're not really going to too long of an endurance. Obviously, on an off-road course, 100 minutes, as we take a look at the race analysis, that is a long time. But like you mentioned, Evan, no damage, no cautions in that classic Crandon Land Rush start where everybody in each class will start at the same time. Seems like a recipe for a little bit of carnage at turn number 1.
Certainly, especially when you consider that Land Rush standing start, which Crandon is known for. That's crazy, if you got a dozen trucks out there at once, let alone all the different teams that are going to be competing here this afternoon. And, we're going to be racing for 67 laps or that 100-minute time limit. I believe this one will get done on laps. Just looking at pace, But we'll see, again, if some issues happen to the faster drivers in the unlimited truck category. If it does push us closer to the 100-minute mark, I think lap time-wise, we should be able to get those 67 laps in about an hour and a half. So getting us in just under that time limit. We talked about the multi-class racing. It's also important to note that Josh touched on the fact that it's not going to be the same driver in the car all night long. As we take a look live in at open qualifying with only about 3 minutes left to set the grid this afternoon. Each team has anywhere from 2 to 3 competitors. They're going to be shuffling through those drivers over the course of the race. Now, in order to qualify for a finishing position, these drivers must abide by iRacing's drive, fair, share rule, where each driver must run 25% of an equal share of the race. Well, that's not just 25% of the race, it's 25% of a share. So we did a lot of talking about this pre-race. If you have 2 drivers on your team, you divide the race in half, 67 laps, 33 and a half laps each. 25% is of that number. So if you got 2 drivers in the car, each guy needs to do at least 9 laps. If you got 3, all of your drivers must do at least 6. Don't expect that to be a concern at all, but I think it'll be interesting if these drivers all decide to go equal on time, or if, things are getting close to the end, do you put your ace back in for a longer stint?
Yeah, there's a little bit of fun strategy there, isn't it? Yeah, exactly like you said, you might want to get out there to an early lead, and once you have that gap, you make that driver switch. But then that also leaves you vulnerable towards the end of the race, Evan. If you leave that driver in there and the other drivers catch up, do you have enough time to switch back to your faster driver? It's going to be really interesting to see.
You can see a live look at the current qualifying times on the left-hand side of your screen. Of course, we'll be taking a look at the running order all night long by class. Overall speed, no surprise right now that the unlimited truck category fastest on track, they occupy the top 11 positions. I do think it is interesting to note, though, Josh, that the Subaru WRX team of the Moto Squids, they are actually faster than the drivers represented in the VW Beetle Lite category, so they've actually been doing a very good job. And the Pro 2 Lite trucks kind of in the middle, so we thought there may be a little bit more separation class-wise, but it looks like the only definitive thing is that the unlimited trucks are the best, and those other 3 classes may be mixing a lot more than first anticipated, and that's also going to depend, of course, on overall pace as the race goes on.
And I definitely think, Evan, once we see that track wear in, we know, of course, the dirt on iRacing, the track is going to be completely different from when we take the green flag versus when we take the checkered flag, especially after 100 minutes or 67 laps, whichever comes first. We are going to see a massive change in this racetrack as we go through. So it's really going to be a test of who can manage that track the best, and which car, mind you, is also going to come in when the track starts to wear in. Could the Subaru WRX have a little bit of an advantage? Could we see the light vehicles start to come into a little bit more of their own once the track slickens off? Only time's going to tell. We haven't really seen what these drivers and these cars can do on a worn track.
That's true, and the good news is because that dirt does wear in very quickly, Race Control has decided they're going to reset the track state to 0 for the start of the initial race, and then from that point on, of course, it'll start to get worked back in. So the track's even going to be very different when the race starts than it is now, of course, because they've been working it in for the better part of this 15-minute qualifying session. Couple of final times getting punched on the board, and we're going to get set to go racing tonight. Several exciting prizes on the line from our friends at Race API. We're going to be given a setup of their choice for the winner from each class. Hot Lap Heroes Racing will give $5 to the most laps led in each class category tonight. And our friends at martinsports906.com will give a free pair of sim racing gloves to the members of the team with the overall slowest, fastest lap, because they need help and to find some grip out there. So that's going to be the promotions. We'll be checking in on our award winners over the course of the night. And a big thanks to all of those partners for being a part of tonight's show. Looks like about a minute left on the clock before qualifying rounds out. So that's good news, Ian, for the drivers towards the end of a lap. Looks like they'll all be able to close out on one and get a lap time counted. Let's talk just a little bit more specifically about Crandon, right, in terms of some of the short course tracks on the service here. It's a racetrack that features elevation changes, high-flying jumps, at a final hairpin corner. But my question for you is, we know how the trucks are going to drive at a track like this. What are we going to see out of the car categories?
You know, it's interesting once you put rallycross cars on truck tracks. I have a little bit of experience here at Crandon, and I will say that the trucks handle the whoops part of the track a lot better than the rallycross cars seem to handle it. You really got to find a specific line over the whoops in the rallycross cars, such as the Beetles we'll see or the Subaru, but the trucks, you can kind of be all over them and it doesn't bother them as much. So that's something to be aware of. Another thing that I'm really interested to see is how some of these smaller cars will handle themselves around the trucks. The trucks won't have to worry about making contact as much. It's not going to upset the trucks as much, Evan. But really, with the rallycross cars, you got to be careful sending it into a corner with one of those truck guys.
They're certainly big. They take up a lot of space on the racetrack. Those unlimited trucks weighing in at 4,000 pounds. Same with the limited trucks as well. So they've got about 1,200 pounds on the cars, and of course are just pretty substantially larger in general. So that's going to be something to follow as this race goes on. But that being said, qualifying has drawn to a close. Let's go trackside and take a look at your starting grid for the S2 Motorsports Shenandoah Shine Group Therapy 100. So pole position goes to Keaton Swain, representing Factory Sim Sport. All of your top 6 drivers representing the top unlimited truck class. And then the JBES, the Jim Beaver Esports A+ team, will see Connor Berry starting with them alongside in second position. Then you'll have Connor Parise, Luke Cadup. They're going to make up row number 2 alongside with the likes of Josh Clogg and Daniel Zegras for Fiercey Forward Off-Road and Elbows Up Sim Sport.
And taking a look a little bit further down as we continue to run your way through the starting grid, Taylor Vandenbush is going to be on the pole for the limited truck class in the AMX iRacing machine. Tor Andre Borison, we're used to seeing him on Racecraft TV when it comes to the RX class. He is in the Pro 4 truck tonight. Colby Collins going to be the second driver in that limited truck. Ryan Field, Bill Lester, Cosmin Ionisiu going to round out the top 3 when it comes to that limited truck class in the top 12 overall.
And you continue on down through the likes of Chris Leone and Jim Beaver Esports team of the 548 machine representing the VWs back in the limited car class. He'll be in the top spot for that group alongside with Hondo Logomir and John Borst. And we talk about crazy land rush starts at Crandon. I don't know if we have seen anything like this before. All 37 teams lined up and ready to go as we say, let's go racing at Crandon. Josh, some big names with issues early. Connor Parise, one of the drivers you figured probably be a favorite in this race. He was up and over on his lid just a handful of corners ago. Also a big rollover and a spin for the 69 team. That's the Shenandoah Shine team, red and white. So some big names, problems early in this race. And you got to think that getting through that first lap clean is going to make your life a whole lot easier because several drivers on the hook early to get back to pit road because they were beached on their lid.
Yeah, that was a lot of drivers who ended up getting caught up on lap number 1, or at least got caught up in some sort of incident on this racetrack. But Caden Swain and that Factory Simsport Pro 4 getting out to a very quick overall lead. And currently the top 13 overall is all Pro 4 trucks. You got to look back to P14 to find the next class, which is the AMX iRacing Don't Do That Motorsports machine. Taylor Vandenbush behind the wheel of that 217 Pro 2 Lite truck, and he's continuing to race and hold off. Hangout Chat Motorsports is Sean Hayes, who sits behind him. leader currently of the Subaru WRX class. The unlimited rallycross car class is the JBE team of Josh Edmondson, currently in that car. Then you go back to find the leader of the next class, the limited truck, or the limited car, excuse me. That would be the CJ Pros machine of John Borst.
And then for all the chaos we saw, Parise and the Connecticutans were really the only group out of our top class who had that major issue and ended up on there later. Remember we mentioned off at the top, damage is turned off for this race. That's the beauty of the sim. So even if you had a pretty nasty spill on the opening lap, all you had to do was right the ship and you were going to be okay. But that is such a huge hit for Parise and company after they qualified 4th overall and therefore 4th in that unlimited truck class. I mean, they are all the way at the bottom, last on the lead lap, only ahead of Cam Motorsports and Dane Lloyd, who also had an issue in his Pro 2 light truck off of the opening lap of this race. So Parise is one of the bigger names in his short course racing. He is way behind early, and what you're seeing up front is, for the most part, not that much battling going on. Here's a nice trio. Luke Kraus representing Fiercely Forward Off-Road Division, trying to get up to cross Kirkmuir, and the CXR Project Black Off-Road, Connor Berry, and the JBES A+ team just up the road as well. So this is all just outside of the top 3 in the Pro 4 truck class. Look at the big slide down to the inside of the hairpin for Zach Knowles, and TLM going to take that spot for P4 for the time being.
That was a great move from Zach Knowles there to get back by the CXR Project Black Off-Road machine of Cross Kirchmeier. And as they continue to fight for this 4th spot, you can really see up the road, the 2nd and 3rd drivers are going at it. Take a look at the move to the inside. That's motorsportfilmer.net machine of Tor Andre Borison with Jim Beaver Esports A+ team entry of Connor Berry in the number 28. Beautiful Next Level Racing throwback colors on that Pro 4 truck, as Connor Berry, very accomplished when it comes to off-road racing on the iRacing service. Ian, he just put himself up and into P2.
Yeah, and these drivers so far, I'm kind of interested about how hard they're battling, because you got to think, you've gotten through that initial land rush start clean, and you've kind of filled yourself into a little bit of a bubble here, and you've got a lot of time left, 100 minutes or 67 laps, I believe, whatever comes first. So really, I'm surprised that these guys are fighting as hard as they are right now, but you know how competitive they can be, Evan.
Oh, certainly, and I think that these drivers, to an extent, maybe almost can't help themselves, right? When you got so many cars around you, you're really going to want to be physical. But again, the long game is the better one. Now, we'll see how much, to a degree, we see drivers worry about conserving the truck and trying to make it to the end of the race and so on and so forth. But I think if anybody's close to one another, they're going to race hard no matter what. I think the fact that damage is turned off is going to be a part of that as well, as the 37 truck tangled up there with one of our car category drivers, and that's going to be a little bit of a bump in the road. Let's take a second look and see what happened here. We talked about these trucks and the cars, how they will interact. The truck's far heavier than those little trucks up the road, and it looks like it was actually an issue for a different car initially, and then the 177 got in the way, and that's a concrete pillar. He was trying to avoid the tipped over 37 truck and ended up driving himself right off the road. So that was an initial issue for the Hot Lap Heroes T1 team. Their Pro 2 Light team now going to drop all the way down to 2nd to last in class, only ahead of Cam Motorsports, who's not currently on the racetrack in that group. But now the top 13 position still occupied by the Pro 4 truck division, that unlimited truck class. No shock that they have driven up to the front of the field, and the Pro 2 trucks have been better off of the jump than what we've seen out of the unlimited cars in the Subaru WRX STIs, because 14, 15, 16 overall now are all 3 Pro 2 light truck teams. So they're slowly, as we get into race pace, finding advantage over those unlimited cars, who actually seem to have a better go in qualifying than the Pro 2 trucks did.
Here's the leader of that Pro 2 light class, Taylor Vandenbush, for Don't Do That Motorsports in the number 217. only 14th overall, but like you mentioned, Evan, they're really moving their way up through the field. But as I say that, now take a look at the Rallycross machine starting to work their way up and into this group. The Moto Squids machine of Trevor Teal just got up and into P16. The JBE 18 machine of Josh Edmondson just got up into 17th place, and they're chasing down that Hangout Chat Motorsports machine of Sean Hayes that sits in front of them. And it looks like very quickly, Ian, they're going to throw this Pro 2 Lite back into 17th overall.
Yeah, those rallycross cars are I would say more nimble, but you really got to think this is a truck track. You would think the trucks have a little bit of advantage, but you can see right now those guys are just flying up on them, and those aren't two slouches in those Subarus either, two very fast drivers.
They're doing a good job of trying to get that pace early out of the gate. And listen, that's where you can use some of the experience. Is certainly, you go out there and you try to put down hot laps all night long. Now, listen, some of these drivers may be the mindset to just push it all the way, as Trevor Teal with an issue with the 172 truck. So the car, I should say, for Teal. And there's the outfit, guys. The Moto Squids driver. He's dressed up and good to go. And, well, the fit might be questionable. This is no laughing matter because he was first in class, but that mistake has given it away to the Jim Beaver Esports A team there.
Everyone at home can see exactly why we made Trevor Teal our unofficial in-race reporter tonight, is because he agreed to put the pickle suit on. If you're familiar with Racecraft TV Rallycross, he wore it for the Phoenix Halloween race there. And if you're familiar with Rallycross at all, if you've seen the iRacing Rallycross World Championship for, I believe it was one of the rounds closer to the end of the season. I believe it was the Phoenix round of the iRacing Rallycross World Championship in the All-Stars series. He wore the pickle suit, and we got it featured on the broadcast. So Teal's just always bringing out the suit, and he argued it would be really hot to race with that in, but clearly he agreed, and he's coming into the pit lane here, wondering if he's got an issue or if this is going to be the first driver swaps that we're going to see.
Yeah, I'm curious of that as well, although we do see the Jim Beaver Esports A team in as well, so this might be just following the leader in that respect. But yeah, hopefully he'll forgive me for this pun, but hopefully, Evan, we don't see our good friend Trevor there in a pickle anytime soon in this race.
All right, well, I'll give that one to you. We knew it was coming. We got the pickle pun out of the way, and let's see how many more we could work in over the course of this one. Guys, we're talking about teams, right, and how many duos we have out there on track. And for the Moto Squids, that's the two-driver team with Trevor Teal and Daniel Aish as well. So if you can remember, looking back to the rules that we went through for the fair share, if you've got two drivers in the car, each of them is going to need to do at least 9 laps. That was only a 7-lap stint if they are going to do a driver swap. So we'll see him back in the car at least one more time as we take a look at Cisco Scaramuza driving for Team Rick. That 4th position represents P4 in class. So that is in the Pro 2 Light truck class. And, now 5 of the top 5 cars in the Pro 2 Lights are ahead of the highest running driver in the Subaru class. In fact, the CJ Pros team with John Borst in the car now is actually the highest driver in the limited car class, and he's outrunning the highest running driver in the unlimited car class. So, Josh, that goes to show you how some of the chaos of the race could mess up the running order. Is the class leaders in the cars limited has the upper hand right now.
Yeah, and you could see really what John Borst just did when he went through that corner. He just kind of went in very wide and then arched it in. You got to remember, even though they are limited on power, they are basically the exact same thing as the VW Beetle supercars in Rallycross. The only thing different is they drop the power. Still 4-wheel drive. You can still get up and go in that thing because even on dirt, 4-wheel drive, it's still got some really, really good grip. And I'd argue, Ian, with less horsepower underneath the hood of that machine, they might get some better grip on the dirt as well. When normally Rallycross cars would have some wheel spin on the dirt, it might be a little bit easier to navigate this track here at Crandon in the Light Beetle.
You're absolutely correct, and I haven't brought that up yet, but that is something I was going to touch on later, was that it's not completely unheard of to see these Beetle Light cars running, or these Beetle Limited cars, that is, running faster lap times at tracks than your unlimited Rallycross cars. So It may be a smart option. They also have a little bit shorter of a wheelbase than the Subaru, so that might be helping with the tight turns, especially those hairpin turns as we see a car over on its roof or a truck over on its roof now.
Hey, that's Midwest Motorsports and Nathan Batoxin, who is still barrel rolling. They were 5th in class. There he is. 5th in class in the limited truck category, but now that he's turtled, he's going to have to put it on the hook and take it to the pit lane and serve a time penalty before he's allowed to get going. There's his second look, and just to add insult to injury, got punted a second time. That was all on his own, though, right there. Hooked it up on the berm on the inside of the racetrack, tumbled, and the team in 5th in the limited truck class now going to get on the hook, and that's going to take them basically all the way down to the cellar. Still early in this race. Talking about those horsepower figures, guys, let's talk about these cars and compare them all. The Pro 4 trucks bringing in 800 horsepower total. It is 400 for the limited trucks, so the Pro 2 lights. But you talk about the difference between the normal car and the limited cars. We see Keaton Swain making a move there, trying to get around some traffic to maintain the race lead. The red banner representing the drivers in that second of the truck classes. But the unlimited car, the Subaru's got 585 horsepower, Josh. It's not like they're cutting just a little bit off at the top. They're cutting that thing all the way down to 262. I mean, it's more than half. Pretty significant difference.
There's a pretty significant difference between all of the vehicles that we have running here tonight. I mean, you mentioned the horsepower figure on the Pro 4, 800. You mentioned unlimited car, 585. Then you go down to the limited truck at 400. So you're basically cutting the Pro 4 in half. But also with that Pro 2 Lite, you got to remember you're going down from 4-wheel drive down to 2. Only with the rear wheels making any power on that Pro 2 Lite. That makes it pretty difficult to navigate. Then you have the Volkswagen Beetle Lite. Like you mentioned, Evan, you're taking out more than half of that power. You're going down to 262 on the power there. So it's a big difference in between the rallycross machines, and still a pretty big difference in between the trucks as well, but more so on the drive figure, Ian, rather than the horsepower figure, which arguably is going to affect it more as we see Josh Edmondson get underneath one of the pro trucks in front of him, and he has went back to the pit lane after going out of bounds.
Yeah, that's going to shake up the Subaru or the unlimited rally car class for sure. Now we're probably going to see the Moto Squids take that top spot back from Edmondson. I'm not exactly sure what happened here. I don't know if he just didn't see coming over the top. It is a little bit hard to see going over those crests in the truck. So even down lower in the rallycross car, you got to imagine it's hard to see. But that truck was right there the entire time. I'm not sure if that was a little bit of payback or what happened there, Evan.
The car doesn't get off the ground as much as the truck does, so as he was closing on the truck up the road, he basically drove underneath him, and yeah, I mean, he just got spit out and went into the woods. You mentioned that the Moto Squids are probably going to go back to the lead in that class. Remember, it was not that long ago that that A-team, piloted by Edmondson, passed them for the lead in that unlimited car category, and a self-inflicted error is probably going to hand things back over to the Moto Squids, although we had not seen well, that A-team pitted about 3 laps prior, but they had gotten a huge advantage on everybody else in their category. In fact, most of the drivers in their class have had significant issues. Just looking at the bottom 7 positions in the standings, 5 of those in the overall standings, 5 of the bottom 7 are drivers from the unlimited car class. I mean, they just have not had any luck, if not for bad luck, at all to start this one. So the A-team hasn't even lost the lead yet. We'll see how it shakes out. Moto Squids currently has Daniel Aish in the car, and then it is Team Nepa, the 177 team, second in class. And now, as we see Edmondson just start to roll again, the Moto Squids have taken the advantage back in the unlimited car class. So it's not all hope lost. I mean, that has been a rough go for the smaller of the classes in the field today, with only 6 teams entered.
Yeah, it's been a very, very rough time for that class. I mean, you go back to the NEPA team, the 177 currently running in third place. You go back, McConey Setup Shop LLC, that's John Lucido in the car right now. Jeff McConey, William Hale also entering this machine for McConey Setup Shop. You go back from there, the Podium Esports entry, John Theodore, Gary Sexton behind the wheel of this car. They're currently 2 laps down. Same thing with the McConey Setup Shop entry. And then Scotty Auto Sport with Mason Dunn, 3 laps down. All of them within the same class, all of them multiple laps down. You can add the NEPA team and the JBEA team to that 2 laps down party overall. Moto Squiz only 1 lap down. So going over on the classes, Ian, of course, Moto Squids are technically 1 lap ahead of all of their competitors when it comes to that class, because they've only been put 1 lap down. The other drivers have been put 2 laps down by the current leader of the overall lead and the Pro 4 class, Factory Simsport. Keaton Swain still in the car, and it looks like we're going to see a driver swap here for the Pro 4 trucks in the lead.
That's another interesting thing, though, as we saw earlier with the A team going off track like they did. Anything can change in a second, though. So just because you have a 1 lap lead now, we still have almost an hour, over an hour actually left in this race. So anything can happen to any of these cars at any time. And really, that's why I think you really just got to race your race now if you're looking to win this thing. It is a fun race, but you got to imagine these guys want those bragging rights.
Here you're looking at Connor Berry, who has assumed the race lead for the Subaru Esports A+ team, not to be confused with the A team down racing in the other classes, but they almost just got taken out by one of the cars. Paul Nelson, Team Unpro, got into Connor Berry coming over the finish line jump and just about tipped that truck over. So you talk about how quickly things can change here. That 28 truck had a bit of a moment not that long ago, and just behind them there's a huge melee down in the hairpin. One team tipped upside down and over. It is Pro Goon World Order with Hondo Longmire just tipped on his side, but it was far more than just the 520 team. He got tagged initially by Connor Parise, who had a bit of a rough start and may have been trying to make up for that. The 5 truck was involved as well, and fortunately didn't hurt Brantley Bryant all that much. The Shenandoah Shine Team Orange truck was able to continue on, but take a second, look at all this chaos that happened.
So there's 1 contact, there's 2, there's 3, and yeah, that's going to be enough to tip that car over onto his side. And I'm thinking Evan, yeah, he was trying to get those wheels powered, but only the back one spinning, or back left one spinning, that's back right, excuse me, spinning on that car. Not enough to bring it over like a monster truck and get that thing back on all 4 wheels. So unfortunately it was a tow back to the pit lane.
I was thinking, Ian, the little engine that could, because even though he was on his side, he was still giving it gas and trying to turn into it. The cars aren't really made to recover, though, from being stuck on the sidewall.
I thought that was a bold strategy myself. What I think he was actually looking for is he was looking for a friendly boop from one of his competitors to possibly knock him back over on his wheels.
Why not? There's no damage, so just put a $5 bounty up. Somebody knocks you over and, you know, send them a Venmo mid-race, and then you save the time from getting the tow all the way to the pit lane, because the way this track layout is, that massive hairpin where all of that excitement happened is technically turn number 4 on this track, right? I mean, it's almost as far away from pit road. It is literally as far, I think, from pit road as you can be on the sim. So the further away from pit road you are, when you have to escape out of the car and take that virtual tow, as we refer to it as, the longer the time penalty you'll have to serve. You'll have to hold, if you're close, a minute, right? If you're really far away, maybe 3 minutes, depending on the track. Further away you are, that longer the hold is going to be before you're allowed to get back into the car. So that's really going to hurt that group, because if there was one place, not that there's really any good place to be stuck on your side or on your lid, but if there was one spot where I would really prefer to not get stuck like that, it would be down in the hairpin in turn 4, because again, that's the very far end of the racetrack from where pit road is.
I will say, if there's any solace to that situation, it is the fact that normally a tow in a rallycross race or a truck race would be a death sentence for your race, probably. But here in this endurance race, it's not as bad if there's any saving grace for these drivers there, Josh.
Yeah, it's not going to be that bad of a thing at all. Of course, see, like endurance racing normally is, as we go through the motions of this race, we're going to see some drivers have to tow back to the pit lane. That puts them a couple laps down. Then we see maybe some drivers had an issue with the driver swap. That puts them a couple laps down. So we're going to see a lot of drivers go off of the lead lap when it comes to the overall spots on the racetrack, and we're going to see some drivers fall under 1 lap down when it comes to that differences in class. It's just going to eventually come down to the point where we have a handful of drivers who are all racing together on the same lap, and it might be 2 on the lead lap, it might be 3, it might be 5, or it could be upwards of 6, 7, or 8 that are, 1 lap down continuing to race.
I just keep watching some trucks. I mean, they keep having repeated issues. The 5-truck team with Brian in the truck had the same issue down in the hairpin, kind of on his own. And listen, that's why I said, and to your point, Ian, you talked about the death sentence, right? I don't think that this race is going to come down to who's perfect, because I don't think anybody could realistically be perfect. Even if you don't do anything wrong in your own right, someone's going to hit you, right? There's just too many teams on track. If everyone's on track, that's 37 cars and trucks at any given time. But I think the big thing is limiting those huge mistakes. And I would probably consider a tow a huge mistake. I don't think one's going to kill you, but you certainly can't get into the habit of doing several of those. And maybe that's going to be the key, right? Don't really worry that much about losing a couple of tenths of a second because a guy in front of you is holding you up, right? Or there's a group of 4 people all over each other. You don't really need to push the issue to save and shave those couple tenths of a second off the stopwatch. Don't worry about the tenths. Worry about the huge, seconds of time. Huge issues like that, I think, is going to be the key, because those are going to add up a lot quicker. As Josh Clogg, freshly off of the pit lane in the number 13 truck, back out onto the racetrack. We've seen, I think, just taking a look, most everybody has been onto the pit lane at some point here in this race. I think every team now, with the exception of Slow Inc., maybe, who are currently representing of that limited truck category. I think they may be the only group that has yet to come to pit road. Other than that, everybody's been in at least once. Some teams have opted to make a driver swap. Other teams have opted to leave their initial drivers in. So we talked about all the different variants and strategy you can pull in a race like this, and everybody's trying something a little bit different.
And this Slow Ink machine, obviously you can see the Traction GG colors on that. Currently in the car, it is Cosmin Ionusiu, but we will see Justin Malillo, fan favorite, in that truck in a little bit. Second place in Monday Night Racing at the Indy Cars at Talladega, Ian. So Malillo is going to be on a bit of a momentum boost heading in, and we'll see if they can make up that time and get past Don't Do That Motorsports, who sit in the lead of that limited truck class. And he's making his way through some traffic right now. Take a look at this. This looks to be 2 Pro 4s, 2 Pro 2 Lights trying to navigate around each other.
Yeah, and to go back to Evan's point earlier, if you're looking at this battle right here as a driver, you might want to back out of it, but you don't know, because there could be a whole battle behind you that you get caught up in. I think, Evan, you made the reference to, when we were talking before the broadcast, I believe it was the Benny Hill theme, and the farther this race goes on, the more that's playing in my head.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. There's just nowhere to go. Everywhere you look, there's another car, there's another truck.
In a couple of different battles in this group right here, you can see Nick Nowak is trying his best to work around some of the traffic around it, but that's John Borst in the CJ Pros entry just up the road from him. Of course, Nowak's got a pretty good advantage for the lead now in the Pro 2 Truck Light category. Again, they are the second highest running class right now, top 12 positions, all occupied by the Unlimited trucks, and then 13th overall is the AMX iRacing entry of Nowak right now. And just up the road from him, there was a battle for position in the Unlimited truck class, and it's going to be a change for position. A mistake by Rodrigo Miranda is going to allow Josh Clogg to get around, and another truck tipped over even further down the road. This fight right here is for 5th overall and 5th in class in the Unlimiteds, and now there's a truck now getting into the car that was stopped in the middle of the road there. I think that was John Theodore in the Podium Esports team. That driver representing the Unlimited car class was right smack dab in the line of these two, who are still going at it for 5th.
Take a look at this heads-up battle as they continue to race. That was the Elbows Up Sim Sports number 72 Pro 4 truck that was flipped upside down. That was Jeffrey Stewart, who has since towed it over back into the pit lane. But take a look at this battle. Fiercely Forward Off-Road Division in the lead with Josh Clogg. You go back to motorsportfilmer.net, M. Rodrigo Miranda, as they continue to fight. They're going to go up and over the whoop section here, and they continue to fight for this 5th position. You can see they've really let each other go now. They've backed off of one another. Don't think they want to go so aggressive that they're going to end up with getting into an incident, because even though it's not going to damage their truck or car, they are going to be able to continue racing. That's going to make them lose a ton of time by, if they flip over, having to tow back to the pit lane. That loses them a ton of time and positions on the racetrack as well.
Yeah, and that's going to be a real big killer. With damage being disabled, the bumps and bruises aren't going to kill you, as we see a truck coming in out of nowhere there. I have no idea where that came from. But yeah, really, the bumps and bruises aren't going to hurt you. It's going to be those rollovers that hurt you. But it is entertaining to see how, even though this is a fun race, this is an endurance race, when you get two drivers of those caliber together, how it's like the instinct turns on, Evan. They can't help but race each other hard.
I think that's the perfect way to put it, right? They can't help each other. They might be a little bit smarter to take it easy, but they just can't help themselves. And you're going to go out there and race hard. And that's why we saw such an exciting battle for fifth in and around slower cars, when really, again, the most optimal way to have dealt with that would have been to not run into each other and everything in the way. But listen, it's racing. These guys are here to have fun. And I think that's really the big takeaway is look at the speed difference as they make the run off and into turn number 4 on board. And that's one way to get the spot, just shove the other driver out of the way. So Jonathan Sterling, who is trying to dig himself out of a hole, second to last in the unlimited truck class, just making that move on the AMX iRacing entry of Nick Nowak. Nowak, the leader of the Pro 2 Light category. So, Nowak's a leader, and he's not getting any respect from the guy who's second to last in a different class, moving him out of the way. Everybody out there for their own individual gain. And again, if you look to the left-hand side of your screen at our Shenandoah Shine leaderboard, it is now, again, Factory Sim Sports cycling back to the overall and the unlimited truck race lead. They have a 22-second advantage atop TLM in second. Zach Knowles is in the truck at the moment, and then the Jim Beaver Esports A+ team without Keith Jeffrey behind the wheel is third in class, some 27 seconds off. The second highest class leader in the field, again, is actually the VW Beetle Lite category for the limited car class. CJ Pros with John Borst in the car now, with some contact there as we watched him try to fight through the field. He's actually 13th overall, first in class. He's ahead of the Jim Beaver Esports team with Cam Peterson in the car. They're second in class, and then third in class is Team Unpro with Paul Nelson. But all of those other drivers down the line behind the class leader for our second highest group, the Pro 2 Light truck. I mentioned that's Nick Nowak in the AMX iRacing truck. They currently have 19 seconds on Hot Lap Heroes. That has Colby Collins in the truck right now, and about 5 more seconds down the road, Team Wreck with Keenan Kusin behind the wheel. And then the third and final of the categories, and again, the surprisingly slow-paced one, is that Subaru WRX STI, the unlimited car class, currently led by Dave Bodio. That's the Jim Beaver Esports A team. They right now sit only 0.3 of a second up on the Moto Squids. Trevor Teal in that car, so a great battle there, but it's only for something like 16th overall. I mean, it has not been impressive for the Subies tonight, and they have quite a safe advantage a whole lap till you get back to the NEPA entry of Eric Whitner. But that's just a quick update at our Shenandoah Shine leaderboard. We'll be checking in with that as the night goes on, but I just continue to be surprised by how well the VW Beetle Lite has been and how poor that Subaru WRX has been doing for the unlimited class.
No, but take a look at this battle here, Evan. Even though they might be slower than the other classes, they are battling well. Dave Bodio's in the car for Jim Beaver Esports A team. Trevor Teal, like you mentioned, back in the car for Moto Squids, and there it is. There's the swap in position. One pro truck that was out of place just made contact with the Jim Beaver Esports A team car, and now he's going to go spinning again into that corner. And that is how quickly, Ian, things can go terrible, especially in a multi-class race like this.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere, like you said, and everything changed just like that. It was such a tight battle, and really it comes down to a third party to be the change of position. I will say that's one heck of a save, though, for that Jim Beaver Esports driver.
Well, that's why I mentioned earlier, you can be perfect, but at some point, somebody else is going to screw you up. And that was Christopher McCorkle for Dirty Mike and the boys, who just got, a little bit wide over the jump, ended up off it in the grass there through the barn turn. And when he drove it back on, he had to cut it across because the wall was there. And when he did so, basically put himself into the wall here and caused that contact. So that's going to be a big hit for Dave Bodio. He's going to try to bounce back and recover. And you can see the intervals on the left-hand side of your screen as well. We'll see how the JBE A team does. They lose about 3.6 seconds in that exchange. But we got Chris Leone up in the booth with us. Chris, thanks for hanging out and chatting and joining us for what's been a wild start so far to this race.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It has certainly been a bit of an adventure. I only drove through personally about 6 people, so that was a good time. That's a lot lower than I thought.
Yeah, that's
I thought that was lower.
Yeah, I think you're doing all right. You're representing the bottom class as far as the limited car class, I believe, and we've been talking about the surprise speed we've seen out of those Beetles. What was it like in the car dealing with all the trucks and whatnot?
Well, the funny thing is the Pro 2 lights are the slower class, as we discovered, but the Pro 2 lights were kind of the ones that ended up being the bullies for us because, we have found a strange amount of that I don't think that we really expected. But, a couple of times, I think most of my incidents were contact with Pro 2s, so I don't know. It's interesting. We set this up. We had no idea what was going to happen in any form or function. I mean, we didn't set up any test races. We just made sure the driver swaps worked. We made sure the pit stops worked. We did one test race that was not a team race on the short layout, and we just we went after it. We've had fun. This has been breaking many eggs to make many omelets, but we've been having a blast.
Well, you guys are leading your class right now, and that would have put you 12th overall in the entire thing. So, I mean, is the goal? I mean, you got Cam Peterson. He knows a thing or two about racing on the dirt here on this service, right? Are you guys going for the class win, or do you want to push it? I mean, you want to get a top 10 overall and beat some of those unlimited trucks too?
Whatever Cam and Brandon Proudfoot are able to pull off, I'm just along for the ride. We decided that I should start it because I might just get out of whatever carnage was going to come out of turn 1. But Cam worked with me last night and in 60 minutes turned me from the worst driver on iRacing to not the worst driver on iRacing. And then Brandon came in at the end and made sure that I practiced on a super worn track like we're going to have. So the fact that we're not in dead last is a testament to the work that those two guys have done with me. Certainly Cam got me down to the 121s, and I had not been sniffing those in weeks of practicing. So, it was. I don't know. We're going to go for whatever those guys can pull off, and both of them short course race winners. And, Brandon's got experience in the pro level in the World of Outlaws late models. I mean, I'm just this guy. I'm just the guy who kept the seat warm for the real pros.
Call you the ringer. They put the ringer in to start the race. They made you the sacrificial lamb. And I'll tell you what, you did the job though, because we saw a couple of big name teams end up on their lid at the start of the race. And we've talked about how little mistakes aren't that big of a deal, but certainly huge mistakes like that off of the get-go has set some teams back. So I think we're going to just refer to you as the ringer from now on, because you did a real good job. And Ian, I know you got a question as well for the ringer.
Yeah, as Evan just alluded to, Chris, about that start there, I've done that start a few times in the trucks, but I gotta wonder from your perspective, what was that land rush start like for you?
Honestly, it wasn't too bad. The thing is, with the speed classes, because the Pro 2 lights are generally faster than the Beetle lights, we had to grid in the back, and that's okay, but essentially it was about shooting the gap, praying to God that I had set my sim to draw enough cars, and just trying to shoot the gap. And the most important thing, I definitely hit 4 or 5 people. Sorry, 4 or 5 people. But the car stayed straight the whole time. And that's all you really needed. Then it was just a matter of, continuing to keep the car straight for the next 11 laps. Did have one instance where I think I handbraked with way too much oppo, and that was my second little dinger in the hairpin there. There was one time where I think I got cleaned out, but everybody gets cleaned out. We've got 37 vehicles on Crandon. I've seen them do that in the real world, but it's not particularly advisable. So I think if anybody doesn't get cleared out at least once over the course of a nearly 2-hour race like this, then I'd like to know where the horseshoe is stored within your body.
Now, you said earlier that you had to just make it through 11 laps. Was that a little bit of a strategy you were giving us there? Do you guys have a pit strategy or a driver swap strategy, or is it just kind of when you guys feel like it?
Oh, I actually... I thought I might do the first 2 stints, but I trust Cam and Brandon 100% on this deal. So, if they wanted to yank me out of the car after one, then yank me out of the car after one. It was just a matter of we didn't want to end up too far behind if we could help it, because, the only rings that I really leave are the ones on the coffee tables when I forget to put down the coasters. So, we just didn't want to get too far behind, and I managed to not, completely total the car. The long-standing joke in every sim race I've ever done has usually been that even when damage is off, I will find a way, and somehow today I did not.
No, I can relate to that. A man of my own heart. Evan, and you got anything else for us?
I was going to say the real damage is the emotional trauma you cause all the other drivers you wreck along the way. But Chris, we'll let you get back to the important work. Go coach the team, and hopefully we'll see you out on track, and then we'll put all the cameras on you.
Oh, for sure. And just before I go, I want to thank Shenandoah Shine for coming on to sponsor this whole... Geez, I need to get off a push to talk, guys. Shenandoah Shine, thank you to those guys. EPI is giving the winners from each class a setup of their choice for a week of their choice. Hot Lap Heroes is giving $5 to most laps led in each class, just blowing my dollar purse out of the water. Martin Sports giving a pair of free sim racing gloves to the members of the team with the slowest, fastest lap. And then finally, free entries to the Corn Cob Nationals for the team with the least incident points. So it's going to be a lot of cool prizes. Thank you to Shenandoah for putting those together.
Thanks as well, Chris, for stopping by. Best of luck out there, and go get you some hardware.
We'll try.
That is the ringer of the race-leading team for the VW Beetle Lite class, Chris Leone. Currently, Cam Peterson in that car for the Jim Beaver Esports Group Therapy 100 team. They are currently number 12 overall in the race. And with the exception of our Pro 4 Unlimited Truck class at the top of the board, Josh, starting to see separation, right? 53 seconds of a difference in the Subaru class, 33 seconds off of the race leader for the Pro 2s, 49 in the VW. I mean, slowly now starting to look like a bit of an enduro race.
It definitely is. I mean, we're starting to see really everybody come into their own. I mentioned earlier, we're going to see that at one point, and we're kind of starting to see it now, where everybody's just kind of starting to run their own race. And after you get the driver swaps, after you get the pit stops out of the way, just kind of assessing their situation and saying, okay, here's what we can do. Here's who we're racing. Here is the goal. That's kind of where everybody is right now. They're finding out what that goal is we're going to be close to halfway done on the laps. I believe this race is going to end with that lap count of 67. 50 minutes are still left on that clock, but we're going to be reaching a point where we have 37 laps left, and I believe either, Evan, it's going to be very close on time, or we're going to be ending with that lap.
Estimated if they could hold pace that we'd be done a little bit more than 90 minutes from the start of the race, and that would give us, again, about 10 minutes of buffer. Now, there's going to be several pit stops. Each pit stop adds 40 seconds to your time. So, at this rate, we're looking at each team having anywhere from maybe 5 to 6 pit stops per team on the lower end. So that's certainly going to add a couple of minutes, but I think we will get it in based on laps. And again, that's all just basically to come down to very clearly whoever's leading the unlimited truck class who's going to get to the end of the race first, because I don't see anybody else gets there. They've got a lap up on 2 laps up nearly on every other class. So the unlimited truck's very clearly in control of this race at this point, but we are only 3-4 laps away from halfway home, and I mentioned that it's starting to look like an enduro race because, Ian, I really didn't see a lot of enduro racing in the start of that, right? We've been talking about how aggressive these drivers have been. We've had some big incidents, some big offs, some exciting battles for the lead. You will see that, right, in the 24 hours of Daytona, 24 hours of Le Mans, or something like that, where there is a lot of action early before drivers settle in. I don't think this is a long enough of an enduro race for drivers to ever get fully to that settle-in point, but we're finally starting to see the intervals climb up, and maybe these drivers, will start thinking strategy-wise, who's going to be in the car next, right? We may start thinking about, who you want to put in when the best time to optimize those pit stops are. So maybe start of the strategy is maybe a little bit more on the minds of the drivers at this point than it has been up until now.
Yeah, as we see some big air there from Cameron Peterson there. That was one heck of a jump there. But I'm not surprised to see this turn into more of an endurance race and see these guys spread out a little bit. I will say, though, I'm surprised that it took this long. I think we're nearly almost 30 minutes into this 100-minute race here, and we're just now seeing the team start to spread out, like you said, and really just starting to see some separation here. So now it's really going to come down to, can you run a clean race, and can you make those driver changes without any penalties? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's still a pit road speed here, so you still got to make sure you're penalty free through that pit lane when you're making those changes.
Trying to take a look if I see a pit road speed on the official race information. It looks like it's 30 miles an hour, so that is pretty slow as well. So yeah, there is a pit road speed, and you do kind of have to drive literally off the track to get there. Also, a question that I saw, talk about a unique event, Josh. Normally you're used to 6 other trucks on with you for a heat, maybe 11 others, right, for a feature. A lot of drivers were asking early, how do we know what pit stall we're going to be in, right? Because so many pit stalls are shared simply because the pit lane is not huge here at Crandon. It's not really built for 37 different cars and trucks across 4 classes to be on track at the same time. So that's something else that some drivers were worried about. I don't think we're having mass influxes to pit road, right? It's not like an NASCAR race where the strategy is very defined. You're going to pit into this 5-lap window or so. People are getting a little bit more spread out. So I haven't seen too much calamity onto the pit lane, but that was the question drivers were asking about, right? Is we got to make sure we know where we're pitting, because you don't want to make a dumb mistake and go all the way back around again.
That is the exact opposite of what you want to happen. And take a look at this track. It's starting to wear in. It's starting to slick off. A lot of rubber starting to lay into it. So those 4-wheel drive, very powerful Subarus might start to struggle. The Pro 2 lights might start to struggle. VW Beetle Lights and Pro 4 trucks, they're going to be some of the easier ones to handle here, as we're going to bring up the C in Team Rick. It's Cisco Scaramuza. And Cisco, first of all, splitting up the team into 2 different facets as you wheel your way around the hairpin there. You're part of Team lowercase r, capital IC, lowercase k. That is for you and Ian Plash. Why did you decide to choose him as your teammate?
Team Illinois, basically. Shout out to we just drew straws. But yeah, no, just felt like it. I wish I had better justification for you guys, but just felt like it.
So then, was Ian stuck with you, or are you stuck with Ian?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm the slowest driver in Rick most of the time. Well, most of the time I am, but this one we're actually feeling all right. Well, I'd be feeling better if this track wasn't gone completely. This track is gone, guys.
Yeah, so we're seeing that line really start to develop, and we just saw you go through that final hairpin there, go way up out of the groove. Is that going to kind of be your strategy to get out of that groove that's developing, try and get a little bit more grip, because you are running the Pro 2 Lite, and they are wrecking in front of you. Well, that was inches away from hitting your rear, I'm just saying.
Running great. They look like they're running great out there. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Well, so my strategy is I'm pitting in about 5 corners, so that would be the plan, except we're not really making a whole lot of time. Yeah, we're not making a whole lot of time doing the outer groove. We kind of saw this in practice, the fact that you can't really make up time on the racetrack. Hi, is that Gary? Hi, Gary. There are 2 podium cars on screen, but you can't really make time on the racetrack unless there's an incident. It's just everybody's so standardized, unless you screw up. Yeah, oh, sorry, Ian's telling me how to get to pit road. There we go, pit this time, pit this time.
Box, box, box.
The other thing I found out, my guy's literally right here. So I'm out of the car.
Oh, someone just took out the pit stall behind you.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They just took out your crew, guys. That's not right.
So I blew through that box the first time. I'm guessing it's a little too far late in the broadcast to go back and see that. But hey, guys, what's going on? Now I can talk. Yeah, this track is gone. Like, no semblance of track left out here. It is bad. So once you're in the rubbered in areas, it's good luck. It's just go in the line, and then it's like driving a boat, basically.
Well, Ian's going to hop in that truck now. Are you going to do one more stint, or is it going to be Ian taking 43 minutes to the end?
Yep. It was basically just split it up down the middle. So he's going to have a couple more laps here. But, yeah, it is Ian to the end here as he comes out. Yeah, he's got the Bigfoot truck behind him. But apart from that, looks like the old Diora 2 tribute truck is going to be continuing on here.
Well, he's done 24-hour straight races solo, so I think 40 minutes isn't going to be too hard for Ian Plash there. But good luck to you and Team IC of Team Rick, and maybe we'll see you in victory lane for this class. They're currently running P4. Hopefully you can get up there.
Yeah, we'll see how the rest of the race pans out. Thanks, guys. Love you, Evan. Love you, Josh.
Great to hear from Cisco Scaramuza. Evan, we've worked with him a good bit, and great to have him on the broadcast. Great to have him and Ian teamed up there, and Keenan and Ryan on the other team as well. They've been doing really well. They're in front of their Team Rick teammates as well.
Yeah, that's the key, right? You just don't want to lose, I think, to your teammates. If you can prove that, C over K or K over C is going to win in the Team Rick battle, that's the important thing, right? Just don't lose to your teammate. And they're pretty close, right? Ryan Burton is in the Team Rick with a capital R and K team. They're 3rd overall in their class. And then the aforementioned Team Rick with a capital IC, Ian Plash and Cisco Scaramuza are 4th in class. So they have a little bit of catching up to do to get up there to their teammates. But guys, with that being said, we're halfway through this Yes2 Motorsports Shenandoah Shine Group Therapy 136 laps down, 31 laps to go. So I think that's as good of a time as any to take a look, talk the bottom at a Martin Sports Midway race break. What's the best way to do this? Do it class by class, I'm guessing?
Yeah, let's do it class by class. Let's start with the Pro 4 truck class here.
Yeah, well, let's each take a class. We'll start with our Pro 4 trucks, the unlimited trucks that are currently leading the overall, 6 positions on the racetrack, and your overall event leader right now is Keaton Swain for Factory Sim Sport. They have held a 42-second advantage right now. There they are. They're the all-white truck there, some 42 seconds ahead of the Jim Beaver Esports A-Plus team, currently piloted by Keith Jeffrey, 2nd in class. Luke Cadup has Shenandoah Shine Team Pink 3rd in class, just a minute off of the top positions. And then Fiercely Ford Off-Road is 4th in class, ahead of Shenandoah Shine Team Red. Motorsportfilmer.net is 6th in class. 7th in class is Shenandoah Shine Team Purple with Garrett Dale for the car. Jeffrey Stewart, Elbows Up Simsport, 7th in class. CXR Project Black Off-Road with Chris Kirkmeyer in the car. Cross Kirkmeyer, I should say, 8th in class. 9th in class is Shenandoah Shine Team Red with Cheston Green. Joshua Abbey, Team Orange for Shenandoah Shine is 10th in class. TLM with the Gecko in the car is 11th in class. And then Connor Parise, guy, still 12th. I mean, he's way down the running order for the Connecticans after that early tumble. Only ahead there for Dirty Mike and the boys with Christopher McCorkle in the truck. 13th to the final in your Pro 4 trucks, but again, they're all chasing Factory Sim Sport.
And going over to the Subaru WRX STI class, it's still Jim Beaver Esports A team that sits in the lead. Dave Bodio currently in that car. Then you go a little bit further back. You have to go all the way back from 14th overall, who are currently on here, down to 27th overall. It is the Moto Squids machine, as Trevor Teal is going to bring that car in for an interview here. The Podium Esports machine, Gary Sexton currently in that car. He's sharing it with John Theodore as they make a little bit of contact with the Pro 2 Light machine there in front of them. They sit 3rd in class, 28th overall. The Makoni Setup Shop LLC machine of John Lucido sits in P4 in class, 31st overall. The Nepa Pierogies machine of Eric Whitener sits in 33rd overall. They're P5 in class. And then the Scotty Auto Sport machine sits last in class, P6, 34th overall. Jory Flushower is currently inside of that machine. Is in. We'll take a look at the Pro 2 Light class.
Yeah, and in the top spot, we've got the AMX Racing Don't Do That Motorsports squad, which I will have to say that is a contention for name of the night. If you're wanting to be careful out on the racetrack there, take after those guys. After that, we got the Hot Lap Heroes. About 30 seconds back, the Pro 2 Light category here is a bit split up, and then we've got Team Rick in that 3rd spot.
And that's the Rick with a K, or capital R and K. They're ahead of the capital IC Team Rick just behind them. Lance Elkins for the other Don't Do That Motorsports teams back there. You got Hangout Chat Motorsports with RJ Williams. They're leading to Midwest Motorsports and Cody Harrelson ahead of Slow Inc. with Justin Melillo. And then actually 3 of the last Pro 2 truck teams are all at the very, very bottom out of this race. For Jim and Dell, Hot Lap Heroes, T1, and Cam Motorsports all unable to go to the distance. And that leaves us with our final class, the limited car class, which I think is the surprise of the night. They are led by that Jim Beaver Esports Group Therapy 100 team of Cam Peterson and co. They are number 7 overall. They are plus 29 positions as they head into the pits. Now, they have enough of an advantage over CJ Pros, piloted by Josh Cox, that they should be able to cycle out either right with them or still in the lead. So Cox going to look to challenge for the race lead. And then Team Unpro right now with Nick Cohan in the car is 3rd in class. Hot Lap Heroes Team 3, Timothy Basaber is in 4th position for that group at the moment. 5th in class is Hot Lap Heroes T4 with Henry Smith. 5th is the Pro Goon World Order with Chris Cabot in the car. And that again is your very small 6-car class for that VW Beetle Lite limited car category. The surprise of the night. They, I think, are very good, looking to be one of the top 10 teams overall by the time this thing is all said and done. But that's a look top to bottom at everybody at our Martin Sports Midway Race Break, founded by Scott Martin nearly 10 years ago in the frozen region of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Martin Sports strives for the best custom apparel for your needs. Whether you need shirts for your office, jerseys for a local sports team, or specially designed apparel for your sim racing group, Martin Sports has got you covered. Along with the search of other team wear, they also offer gloves specifically crafted for sim racing that are lightweight, breathable, and complete with padded leather palms. You can find them online at martinsports906.com and at facebook.com/Martin Sports. You get a big thanks to them as well, providing a free pair of those sim racing gloves to the members of the team with the overall slowest, fastest lap. And guys, I almost think that would be worth sandbagging for, just to get a nice pair of gloves from Martin Sports.
Oh, those gloves are great, but I also would feel a little bit insulted just to get gloves for being the slowest car in the class. It's almost like every time you use those gloves, it's going to be a reminder that you are the slowest of your class in this race. But I mean, you do get some good gloves for it.
Free stuff is free stuff. I don't have enough pride to care. Okay. I'll take the free stuff.
As someone who's frequently towards the back of the pack in races, I appreciate that they're looking out for the little guy here.
An equal opportunity sponsor. We appreciate them keeping an eye on everybody in the field.
And guys, in this Jim Beaver Esports Group Therapy 100 machine, we've been talking about how dominant they've been in the VW Beetle Lite class. Brandon Proudfoot has just climbed into that car, so it is no longer Cam Peterson behind the wheel, but Evan, it's an equally challenging driver on the racetrack in Brandon Proudfoot. You think of two very, very dominant drivers when it comes to off-road racing on this course. You think of Cam Peterson, and you think of Brandon Proudfoot.
And he was a late confirmation onto this team. They're one of the few 3-driver teams in the field here this afternoon. There are no 3-driver teams in the Pro 2 Lights. But when you look at overall numbers, I think there's only about 12 of the 37 teams actually represented, 12 of the 36 teams, I should say, represented with 3 drivers. Proudfoot was a late entry. I mean, it's almost not fair, right, to put 2 of the very best, Proudfoot and Peterson, on the same team. Of course, you got the ringer in there, Chris Leone, to anchor the ship, but that is a very, very good team. And again, I was asking Chris, what do you guys want? I think that they have a real good look at being a top 10 overall. Now, I don't think they don't have a chance to beat outright the Pro 4 truck category, but they're going to be a lot of trucks that are faster than them. So they're doing a lot with a little, per se. And yeah, super impressive that what they've been able to do so far. Again, the biggest movers on the night by far. It is also important to note, though, I don't know that it really matters, is, there's a big hit. And when we talk about Proudfoot, there was an issue there. Jeffrey Stewart was sideways in the track. He is up and over now and stuck on the guardrail for Elbows Up Sim Sport. He was 8th in class for the Pro 4 trucks. All that's going to do is give another position to the Jim Beaver Esports team in the limited cars. It was a mistake there, got onto the Jersey barrier, loosened himself up, made contact there after getting in to Christopher McCorkle, and then on his lid, so that's going to gain another spot gained for the Beetle. But what I was going to mention was, I just think there's a little bit of bragging rights in trying to beat some of the other classes, right? We know that the Pro 4 truck's the one to beat, but I said on the grid, and when we were looking at Open Queue, that maybe those other 3 could mix and mingle a little bit. The Subaru WRX class leader, the Jim Beaver Esports A team, piloted by Dave Bodio, has now passed the 2nd in class for the Beetle Lite. So the Beetle Lights aren't, kind of beaten up as they were on those unlimited cars earlier. Dave Bodio's doing some work, and we could see 2 class leaders for the car classes get into the top 10 overall if Bodio can keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see the farther as we go into this race, because as you look right now, that track is already fairly rubbered in. And historically, when those tracks get rubbered in, especially in these dirt sections, you start to see a little bit of an advantage for those Beetle Lights. And even if you're looking at Rallycross, the Ford Focus, we would have, the Ford Fiesta, if we have that out there. But if you're seeing the Subaru start to catch those Beetle Lights, now that the track is worn in, and this is as worn in as the track is going to get, that changes things a little bit, because I start to think that the advantage just swung back to the Subarus then.
So we'll see. And I don't even know. I mean, I don't think the track state, Josh, in iRacing was designed to have this many trucks and cars run out for this long. I mean, how much more worn in could the track even get?
I don't think it could really get worn in much more than this, because honestly, everybody's running in the same line. It's already slicked off. I'm not sure, Ian, if it can get even more slick than it already is. We're already seeing drivers try and experiment with different lines. With only 32 minutes remaining, and it looks like, based on the lap times the lead drivers are running at the front, we might run into a bit of a time issue. We'll continue to follow that story here in a bit, but Ian, I'm wondering if it's going to just get even more slick on that groove, or as drivers look for more grooves to run, if those are going to start to slick over, and then by the end of this race, each and every one of these turns is going to look like an asphalt short track.
Yeah, it's really tough to say, because when you're racing in rallycross, they try to tell you as much as possible to stay in the groove that's already been formed. That's usually going to be the fastest line around the track. Now, truck tracks are a little bit different because there's not asphalt sitting under the dirt like there is in rallycross tracks. So I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be like a dirt oval that you see, where you can start to find those different lines and find speeds if you go a little bit higher in the racetrack. If I was in this event, I would be a little bit afraid to get out of that line that's already been established.
Currently leading the way in this race is Crystal King now, who has taken over for that factory sim sport machine. And Ian, we're catching up now with the very, very famous now Trevor Teal, who lent us his camera tonight so we could get the pickle shot. We see it now, and oh my goodness, Ian, Trevor always brings out these amazing costumes, and the pickle has been brought out multiple times now.
First off, I just want to say that Trevor, you're an inspiration to us all with your bravery by wearing the pickle costume as you are right there. Yeah. Going back to what you asked earlier, though, Josh, I think Trevor would be a perfect person to ask. Trevor, tell us, can you find any speed in those different grooves, or is it you got to hug that groove that's already worn in?
I feel like with the Subaru, you can get some good traction, mostly on the straights. Somehow you can power past those Pro 4s, and that's like the only way to pass anybody. But other than that, it's so hard to drive anywhere.
Yeah, I gotta imagine, especially with that many cars out there, it's kind of hard to find any room. So if you get forced off, there's not really much that you can do. How about the team aspect that's been going on so far? Is it different for you? Is it something that you have much experience with? And was there any thought process behind choosing your teammate, also a motocross driver, in Danny Aish?
Yeah, so I mean, Dan being a freestyle motocross guy himself, and I've been around dirt bikes my whole life, so it kind of just went hand in hand. As far as like planning and practicing for this, we did none of that. So yeah, it's going really good.
Yeah, and it's good to see both of you guys are incredibly fast out there, and nominee for team name of the night as we see Moto Squids here as we watch Danny Aish racing that beautiful car that you guys have. Now, I really got to get into the important questions now, the real depth questions of the interview. Is that pickle suit fireproof, being that you're in a dangerous situation here in these cars that are hurtling through the air and around the track?
I don't think so, and I don't want to find out.
It's a good point. Probably keep it on all four wheels. I was just curious if that was also a fire suit as well as just a pickle suit for the stream as well. How is the streaming going? How's the iRacing streaming going? Are you getting much traction with that?
Yeah, man, the stream's been going great. Tons of support from all my followers. Love seeing all those guys, and yeah, just grinding, man. Love the community and everyone around.
Well, before we let you go, Trevor, is there anybody else that you want to thank tonight?
Oh yeah, of course everybody at Racecraft, Nitro Circus, Factory Sim Sport, Legion Sport, and Keaton Swain.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come and talk with us, Trevor. Hopefully we'll see you guys on the podium later tonight.
Yeah. Talk to you guys later. See ya.
And Evan, that was Trevor Teal there, and I do think that pickle suit is fireproof, honestly. I think he just didn't want to tell us.
It looks like it adds some padding too around the head, right? So when he gets roughed up on some of these contacts and stuff, it kind of pads the blow. I'm still a little bit upset, though, that he's literally Pickle Rick, but he's not on Team Rick. So I don't know who did the logistics for that, but we'll correct that when we get back for a second, maybe, of these Group Therapy 100s. Inside, or about a minute away from being inside, 20 laps to go in this race. Josh talked about the clock, those elongated pit stops I think is going to be the question, because a normal pit stop, you can get it done in about 25 seconds, but if you're doing a driver change, you're pushing it up to 40, and I think those longer pit stops is what is adding the time that's pushing us closer and closer to the time limit. So it's certainly getting close, but watching some of these battles, the Pro 2 Lite category, the only one where the overall lead in the class is less than a lap of difference right now. Everybody else is at about a lap of gap for the Pro 4s, for the Unlimited cars and the Limited.
And going back to that lap time debate, wondering where we're going to finish, taking into account that we believe Factory Sim Sport, the current leader overall in the leader of the Pro 4 truck class, I believe their stops are already done, or at least their driver swaps are already done. So that's not going to be a super elongated pit stop. Doing my very, very quick and probably incorrect math in the middle of this race, I believe we are going to be either very, very close to that time when we end up reaching lap 66, or we are going to reach the time limit when we're going on to lap number 67. So I think either way, we're not going to end one or the other. They'll both just kind of end at the same time, Evan. So we might not have to debate time or laps at all. They might just end at the same time, which would just be absolutely perfect.
I've been planning this segment since the race started, and none of you know about it, so now is a good time to do it inside of 20 laps to go. We're going to do a little bit of power rankings, but not as far as speed, because the running order kind of stands for themselves. So Dean, you kind of alluded to this earlier. I need to know both of your power rankings for the top 5 team names. It doesn't matter by class. We're just going to do an overall power rankings. I want to know what everybody's top 5 favorite team names are. As Crystal King, the overall leader, just got flipped once, now twice almost. Is that time it's the Connecticut's up and over. So trying to do some very important journalism here and rank the team names. But Crystal King almost got taken out by Casey Sandwich at a Bacone Setup Shop team. Importantly, your overall leader landed on all 4 tires. She's fine. She can keep on going, and we can get back to business. So who wants to go first?
I think I'll start us off with the best team names. I think I'll go 5-1. I think number 5, I'm gonna give it to Connecticut's. Great wordplay.
Because that's how their race has been. They just can't keep it on track for more than a lap. So that fits.
Yeah, they can't stop flipping. They can't stop running into other drivers. Perfectly fits. I think the next one. Okay, number 4 is going to be 2 because they both go hand in hand. JBE, Jim Beaver Esports A team and A plus team. Because very clearly, the team name that came first was A-Team with Dave Bodio and Josh Edmondson. And then Connor Berry and the rest of those guys in that Pro 4 decided to just make Jim Beaver Esports A-plus team. Just add the plus to it to try and have a little bit of superiority over their teammates. So very, very great effort from them, and great working hand-in-hand team names. Both of them on the same team. No hard feelings, but just amazing wordplay or playing off of each other. Going to number 3, I think Slow Inc. is my good buddy Justin Mololo's now inside that car for Traction GG. Of course, it perfectly describes their speed on the racetrack right now. I mean, I think Justin would agree. They are pretty slow on the racetrack right now. 6 laps down overall, and 8th place out of 10 in class, and 9th and 10th in class are currently in the pit lane. So, they're running their own race, though. They are probably going to be a shoo-in for that slowest, fastest lap, as I believe they currently have the slowest, fastest lap in their class. So, hey, Justin Malolo going to be walking away with a fancy pair of Martin Sports gloves if that keeps up. Number 2, I'm going to go with Dirty Mike and the Boys, just because it kind of perfectly describes what the team is. Bill Lester currently in that machine. Pro 4 Trucks 14th, last driver in class. Liking that name. And then number 1, I feel like it's a sin to not go with Moto Squids, just because it's Moto Squids. Do I really need to say anything other than that? Oh my,
yeah,
they just made contact and into the infield they go. They're going to get back on the racetrack. I don't think they're going to lose a spot here either, so that's good.
He got away without ink on his windshield on that one. He gets off all right. Moto Squids is close to my top, Ian. They're not all the way up. Have you had time to brainstorm your top 5?
Yeah, I think I got my top 5, and if you'll allow it, I'd like to start off with an honorable mention, and Josh already kind of hinted at it. Is I do enjoy the delicious pettiness between the Jim Beaver esports teams with the A and the A+. I think they're too similar to give each other a separate spot, but I do want to point out the pettiness between team members there. It's really good to see that cohesion and that bonding in that unit. I will say though, let's say here number 5, I'm going to start out with Don't Do That Motorsports. And it's in the Pro 2 Light Truck Division. That's with Lance Elkins and Zach Clifton. We see them right now on screen. I think that's just a good tongue-in-cheek name. I can appreciate any drivers, any teams that can make fun of themselves. So if you have a team name that's making fun of yourself, that's probably going to rank pretty high on my list. Next, I want to give a call at number 4 to the NEPA Pierogies, just because. Have either of you guys had a pierogi?
I don't believe
Big pierogi fan. Big pierogi.
Pierogies are absolutely delicious. So I mean, I wasn't really expecting to see pierogies as a race team name, but you got to give a shout out to them there, as we see them coming out of pit road now. I don't know if they were just doing a driver change or if that was just for service. I believe I'm on team number 3 now, and I'm going to give a shout out to the Ding Dong team. I'm not going to yell it, even though we agreed to do that before the race. I'm not going to yell it, but it's just a good name for a team, especially if you're in one of those trucks, because, yeah, I mean, that's one way that you can pass you. You could just say Ding Dong to somebody's quarter panel and make them move. Going into team number 2, ooh, that's a tough one. I'm going to have to give that to Dirty Mike and the boys. I do want to point something out, Joshua, though. Earlier you said that describes them perfectly. I don't believe there's a Mike on their team, so I'm not exactly sure.
I was going to ask, who's Dirty Mike?
Yeah, I don't know where Mike is. I guess maybe the track is Dirty Mike. Maybe that's what it's supposed to be there. But my top spot does have to go to the Moto Squids. I mean, that's just chef's kiss genius right there as far as team names go.
It's good. So I have a couple of honorable mentions. First off, Trash Panda Motorsports was great. I was very excited to talk about them tonight. We all love raccoons. Maybe you don't if you have a personal vendetta against them. Of course, the Rocket City Trash Panda is one of the best teams in minor league baseball, but they didn't actually make it to the race. I don't know what happened with Aaron Bean and Dave Danboys, but they aren't out here. So unfortunate to not see those guys out there, but a creative enough name. A lot of people bailed on their initial team names when it came to the race. Like the McConey Setup Shop Mudmen were supposed to be a team. I'm pretty sure they're just called McConey Setup Shop LLC in the race. Like, you gotta follow through. And Ding Dong was going to be my number 1 rank, except they also bailed. They were supposed to be Ding Dong. That team was supposed to be Luke Knup's organization, and they just ended up as one of the Shenandoah Shine teams. They're Shenandoah Shine Team Pink, I believe. So that was very disappointing, but I'm still going to give them the shout out. But guys, next time you send us a list with a really cool team name, follow through. Have some backbone, right? I mean, don't take it away from us. So for my top 5, you got to be in the race. So it took some options out. I do like Dirty Mike and the boys, but again, just because I don't know who Dirty Mike is and that wasn't made clear, they're going to be number 5. I think it could have just been the boys, right? I mean, everybody likes repping for the boys, but Dirty Mike and the boys is going to be number 5, and Bill Lester's in that truck right now. Above them are going to be the Pierogies, simply because I'm hungry, and they weren't initially on my top 5, but you convinced me, Ian, and I bumped them up from the honorable mention category, so the Pierogies are number 4. Don't Do That Motorsports is number 5. I think it's just simple elegance. It speaks for itself. I think that it could also scare some of the drivers around them. But like, who are they telling to don't do that, right? Are they warning other drivers not to do that? My interpretation is, if I'm lapping them, don't do that is the voice in their head telling them not to do something stupid, and I don't trust them. So maybe it's a little bit of an intimidation factor, right? Scaring the other drivers around them. So I'll put Don't Do That Motorsports at number 3. Slow Inc. Was another good one, just because that's probably the team that I would drive for. I might change my, since this is a league session at iRacing, I might have, if I were to drive for them, have changed my last name to Evan Pasoslo to match Slow Inc. So I feel like if I was in the race, I would identify with Slow Inc. So shout out to those guys. And then simply because Ding Dong didn't follow through, Moto Squids, who was my number 2, gets the number 1 just based on the fact that Ding Dong bailed. So Moto Squids, guys, I think is I'm pretty sure it's almost unanimous that we all had him up there. I think Moto Squids has got to be our team name power rankings champ.
I agree. I think we're all in consensus about that one.
I can't offer like any, sim racing gloves or setups like our great partners of this Group Therapy 100 can, but, pat on the back. We just spent the last 10 minutes talking about team names. So shout out to the Moto Squids.
We'll tag them in the general chat in the Racecraft TV Discord and tell them they won, and they'll get a GIF, an emoji, something. They'll get something.
I've got a cap from my drink. If we want to give them that, we can do that. If
I've got a used Rowdy Energy. There's like half of it left, so we could kind of pool some stuff together.
Do you think they would like an old Starbucks cup, or
I've got an old Starbucks cup here too. Yeah, we're gonna make something great work here, but let this be a message to the teams that if we see another iteration of this Yes to Motorsports Shenandoah Shine Group Therapy 100 in the future, if it becomes an annual event, give us a fun team name, right? Let's raise the bar. Let's see what we can get next year. And B, if you put down a funny name on your registration, don't bail. Follow through with the funny team name. Because again, a couple of my honorable mentions, I was very disappointed when I didn't see them, because I kept looking for them. I'm like, where's Ding Dong at? And where's Trash Panda? Those were some of the most exciting ones. And when we got through a midway break, I was like, we didn't get to talk about them at all, and they ended up bailing. So I was disappointed to see that didn't all get a chance to play through. But no matter how much fun we're having out here, it doesn't mean that the love has been spread throughout the field, because still got guys trying to run each other off of the racetrack, and everybody being ultra aggressive back in the pack. Race leaders inside of 12 laps to go, 15 on the clock. Again, I think it's just super close still. Worth noting that your overall leaders are in pit road. Factory Sim Sport is in. Crystal King just completing a stint. Curious if they're going to go for a driver swap or not. That Factory Sim Sport team is a team of 2 drivers, so each of them, we talked about that equal share rule earlier, each of them has to do at least 9 laps. I believe that was a 9-lap stint just completed, but it looks like Crystal's going to stay in the truck, and I would assume that would be their final pit stop of the night.
Yeah, she's sharing that truck with Keaton Swain. Swain ran the first half, and I believe Crystal King's going to bring it home here in the second half. Always been impressed with Crystal when it comes to the Virtual Off-Road Racing Series. She has just gotten better and better and way better. And so 50 seconds above Fiercely Forward Off-Road Division, and Luke Krause, who was just, I believe, 4 points away from a spot in the iRacing Rallycross World Championship. And she has kept that gap at around 50 seconds, and it is not closing. So a great run from Crystal King to take what Keaton Swain was able to do in the first half and really make this race her own and bring it home in the second half, Ian. And that's really the big thing for a lot of the drivers that are hopping in after a first stint, or if they have 3 drivers, they're hopping in for their one and only stint here in the last third of this race. Take what your first 2 drivers did and try and keep it the same or improve.
Yeah, and that's really a sleeper of a team if you think about it. Keaton is incredibly fast to begin with, and like you said, Crystal lets her driving speak for herself. So those, both of them, they combine. It's no surprise to see him here at the top of the leaderboard. I will say a little bit of a surprise, though, going back to what we were alluding to earlier, is the Subarus are still Well, actually, help me out here a little bit, Joshua. I'm having a hard time reading the leaderboard here. Are the Subarus still falling behind the Beetle Lights, or are they catching up now?
Yeah, they are. They're struggling quite a bit, and they're 14th overall is the first Subaru, and the JBE A-Team machine was just able to get by the AMX iRacing machine just a couple of laps ago to put the A-Team back up into P14. So they are now the third highest ranked class leader, and then you go down to AMX iRacing in the Pro 2 Lite class. They currently sit in overall P15, and that is the lowest class leader on the leaderboard currently. So, Evan, we're seeing at least one Subaru team start to work their way back up the overall leaderboard, but Josh Edmondson in that car now, very well versed when it comes to off-road, and definitely one of the right choices to take that car home to the end and try and solidify this race win.
It's been a weird night for this Jim Beaver Esports A-Team because they have been on pit road 7 times. Most of the field has been in 4, maybe 5. Some only have been in 3 times if you still have a stop to make to the end of this race. They've been in 7 times. And the last time they were on pit road, they spent 2.5 minutes on pit road. That would imply that they probably had a tow, I would imagine. So it's been a weird night for the JBEA team, but I feel like Edmondson is going to want a little bit more out of this one. But that's kind of the battle I'm most excited about, right? Was them getting around AMX iRacing and passing the Pro 2 Lite leader to make sure that they are not the lowest of the class leaders in the overall running order, and we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, still so impressed with what the Lights have done in the VW category, and I think this thing's going to come down in the final couple of moves to if you need a pit stop left, right? Factory Sim Sport, we saw Crystal King not that long ago, fiercely forward off-road, pitted just the last lap with Luke Krause in the truck, so they're good to go to the end, and the gap up front stayed with 1 lap, so that's fine. There's no change there, there's no threat there. I'm just looking to see, you look at the AMX Racing team who is leading the Pro 2 Lite category. They may still have to make a pit stop, but I think that Team Rick behind them also needs to make a pit stop. So I don't think a pit stop is going to make a difference in the Pro 2 Lite category. So I think certainly some positions will be swayed if someone's got to come in and make another 40-second stop. But as far as the class leaders, I think minus a big mistake, we're pretty looking like that this is how it'll shake out, minus of course chaos, which has happened basically since the drop of the green flag in this one, so who knows. But just looking at pit stops, I don't think strategy wise anything's going to change.
I think we're going to see a lot of the current drivers that are on the track take it home. I believe the last driver swap might have just happened here. And hopping into the truck for AMX iRacing, Don't Do That Motorsports, will be Taylor Vandenbush. So they're hopping in. Will Ryan Burton and Team Rick have an opportunity to overtake? No, he won't. He is 5 laps down. AMX iRacing is only 4 laps down. So they're going to be able to keep the lead off of this driver swap. So it looks like the AMX iRacing machine is going to stay in the lead as the carnage continues, Ian. Even as they continue to spread out, they just cannot get away from the carnage. Everybody just seems like a magnet to it right now. 9.5 minutes left. They need to focus on surviving, though. 1 penalty, 1 tow could knock them out of this race.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder too, is maybe a little bit of driver fatigue setting in a lot of these endurance races. It's a 24-hour race, it's a 12-hour race, it's an 8-hour race, but you're not dealing with jerking the wheel back and forth and dealing with all these jumps that you do on a dirt track. So it's really demanding for these drivers. So I'm interested to see, Evan, as this race drags on. And the reason I was asking for clarification on leaderboard earlier too is I believe there's a bit of a team battle developing between the Beetle Lite of Jim Beaver Esports and then also the A-Team and the Subaru Rallycross car, Evan. So interesting to see as this race progresses, as we get into the final minutes, if the fatigue of the drivers will play any factor.
And I think that driver swaps can certainly help with that, right? I mean, this isn't a long enough race where one driver's getting out of the car and, go do something else and take a nap, right? I mean, in real world racing, you're probably going to try to get some sleep in the pits before you get back into the car in an enduro event. On iRacing, if you're not in the car, you can go to bed or go to the grocery store, right? And come back. Not seeing a lot of that here, but I certainly think somebody getting out of the car, tuning into the broadcast, making themselves a snack, and then getting back in can help with some of the driver fatigue. I think it's just a lot harder to be precise as well, right? We've talked a lot about how this track has really degraded. This track is not driving like you normally drive it, right? It's going to be very difficult to make those fine movements and those precise, maneuvers on track. You're kind of just hoping that you don't mess up at this point. And I think that you're certainly going to see some drivers that are pretty worn out by the end of this one. I mean, I can't find speed in any of these off-road things. I mean, I have a ton of fun driving a truck or a rally car here on the surface, but I can't find the speed in them. And all the counter steering and throwing it into the corners you got to do. I mean, depending on what your rig is, it's one of the more physical types of cars to drive on iRacing as well.
All of these cars are some of the most difficult ones to drive, and I think it all goes back to the surface they're on. Pro 4 trucks are really difficult because you're on dirt. It acts completely different than asphalt. The Subaru WRX STI, half asphalt, half dirt. Very difficult to drive on, specifically those dirt portions, and the fact that it's four-wheel drive makes it tough to drive on asphalt too. You go to Pro 2 Lights, very difficult to drive because low power, and two-wheel drive on dirt is not the best combination in the world. And VW Beetle Lite, very low on power and pretty much the same struggles that WRX has. So it's not an easy race for anybody in this group. There was no car or truck that you could choose that you're going to be breezing through like you're on a Sunday drive.
Yeah, and I can't even begin where you would. Is there an advantage with any of these cars? Really, you gotta think. They each have their own merits in certain part of these races. At the beginning of the race on that fresh dirt, you gotta imagine these trucks are putting down the most power on the track, and you gotta think that Subaru is really eating up that fresh dirt. But now that we're worn into this race and this track is really falling apart, those Beetles and those the Pro 2 light trucks with the rear-wheel drive are where you start to see your advantages. So really there's strategy on either side of the coin. So it really comes down to these driver preferences and what they excel at it.
Yeah, you're going to want to work those, unique, I think specialties, into the race as well. I mean, each driver is going to be well adept in something else. I mean, you also may have drivers who don't race a ton in these, right? We talked about some of the better drivers that, are in some of the, the iRacing Rallycross World Championship and some of the stuff we've seen at a virtual off-road racing series, right? I mean, we've seen so many drivers who competed at the very top level. We can't forget as well, Josh, there's a lot of guys here just having some fun too, and it's interesting to see how they've kind of mixed together on the track.
Yeah, and getting down to the last 5 minutes here, Evan, this is going to be the real test for a lot of these drivers to finish off this race. Like I mentioned, any small mistake could take them out of it, and we still have a pretty close fight in the Pro 2 Light class. AMX iRacing is only 6 seconds ahead of the first half of Team Rick as Ryan Burton has just hopped into that car.
So one last sprint to the end, Ian. They want to put a fresh guy in to run this one out to the very end.
And maybe that's the play. Who knows? It's kind of like when you're in baseball and you tap that reliever out of the bullpen that gets you through that last inning. That might be the play to get a fresh driver in there.
Drivers doing anything they can to get themselves into a best position. Again, just hoping to avoid mistakes. And as we're into the final couple of moments of this race, got a special guest up here as well in the booth. Joshua, you got us?
Hey, how's it going, fellas?
Not too bad. How have been things for you representing Shenandoah Shine Team Orange in the Pro 4 off-road truck category? Teammate Brantley Bryant. I mean, how have things gone for you guys?
It's been a little rough. We had an incident with the Pro 2. Decided, I guess, we were going one way, he was going the other, and then we just flipped it. We got to cut the course, black flag, so it kind of put us down a couple laps. So we're kind of just surviving, having fun. Literally just having fun as I'm trying to race some of these guys right here. It's been a blast. I mean, it's a great combination that Chris put together here, and like I said, it's just fun, man. It really is. I enjoy these trucks. I enjoy dirt road. I don't feel like it gets enough recognition that it should. So that's why we're doing this.
Well, if it helps at all, I think everybody's had an incident with a Pro 2 truck at some point tonight. What would win the decision to choose the Pro 4? Was it a truck that you guys were a little bit more experienced with? Did you consider going with, one of the cars in the limited or unlimited class, or was it an easy choice for you guys to go for the Pro 4?
Oh yeah, I have the most experience in a Pro 4. I don't get to run it enough, and I should. But I enjoy it a lot. Me and Bryant, we do these every now and again, and just like I said, they're a blast. And so when we saw unlimited truck was a Pro 4, it was like, all right, let's do it.
You guys are on pace, if it can hold, to get a top 10, not only in your class, but a top 10 overall as well. You talk about your experience in these trucks. Normally, if you're driving a Pro 4 truck, it's a short sprint race. What's it been like doing an enduro with all these different classes? When you talk about some of the coming togethers that you've had, did you really approach the race any differently? Because this is a conversation we've been having all night, right? Long race like this, you would tend to think people would be a little bit more patient, but based on what we've seen on track is, there's cars out of control right in front of you, and you're in a hornet's nest of 6 trucks here. Most drivers have not been racing like an enduro, right? They've kind of just been going full send all night.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where if you got a guy, you can try to make a move and kind of not necessarily move him out of your way clean or rude. I mean, it's just if you can bump him to get him out of your way, by all means. It's kind of what we've been doing is if you can send it, and Josh is about to send it right here with this hair fit. Nope. It's just one of those deals. This is so fun. I mean, we've been banging and banging. I don't know if we're 4 wide right now, but it's just a blast. Yeah,
looks a little bit stressful in the mix there.
Oh, just a little bit. Like I said, I'm having fun, so I don't care. It's all just in good. Honestly, like I said, good fun. I keep repeating myself. I know. I'm just focused to make sure I don't run over these guys. But it's like I said, it's a blast. Like I said, Chris doing this with multi-class. It's kind of having the obstacles of some of the slower cars out here. Makes it interesting and throws a little strategy in the mix. I chose to do some pit strategy depending on who was around me and go from there. So
we'll let you deal with the final lap coming up. Thanks for chatting, Josh, and hopefully it ends well for you guys.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I appreciate everyone doing this and us coming on, and I hope we get to do some more.
Good showing in this first Group Therapy 100 for the Shenandoah Shine Team Orange driver of Joshua Abbey. Again, is teamed up this afternoon with Brantley Bryant. And the reason we wanted to let him go is because the white flag is in the air for Factory Sim Sport. We talked about this dynamic duo who qualified for this race #1 overall and have led a dominant 64 of the 66 laps completed thus far. It's Crystal King in the truck now. Keaton Swain started it off. They are more than a lap ahead of their next closest competitor, and Crystal King is going to work into the final couple of corners. The left-hander right there, clean track up the road. Point and shoot for the final turn, and Factory Sim Sport with Crystal King behind the wheel will take the checkered flag and win the Shenandoah Shine Group Therapy 100 in an absolute dominant performance for Keaton Swain and Crystal King. What a duo they were tonight.
And here's the next class winner across the line. The Jim Beaver Esports A team beats the A+ team. And Josh Edmondson, Dave Bodio going to take that machine into virtual victory lane. Next one coming across looks to be the AMX iRacing machine. Extension of Don't Do That Motorsports. Taylor Vandenbush in the truck. A Shenandoah Shine red, white, and blue truck flipped over in front of him. But grabbing that Pro 2 light truck class win is going to be Taylor Vandenbush and the AMX iRacing group.
It's a good finish for the AMX game, and now Chris Leone, the ringer, back in the car for Jim Beaver Esports, will also come across the start-finish line to finish 7th overall and to win in the limited car category. What a surprise we saw tonight out of the VW Beetle drivers, and Leone, Ian, will come home as the race and class winner for the limiteds.
Yeah, and it's really just a little bit of extracurriculars after the line here, but it looks like everybody's just having fun after they're done with this race. That was a that was a ton of fun, guys, really, just from up here. And I'm assuming these drivers had a whole bunch of fun as well. So really fun to see all these different classes of cars out here and what all these guys could do.
You really hope as well, we saw some calamity, we saw some chaos, and really hope that even though some drivers' nights may not have gone the way they wanted, that, drivers had a lot of fun. I think that's the important takeaway from this one. Let's take a look at our full race results. 1 through 5 will officially be your Pro 4 drivers. So King gets the win overall and for the class win. For the Pro 4 Unlimited trucks, Luke Kraus second in class, Connor Berry third in class for their teams. And I'm very impressed that at the very last lap, Josh, Chris Leone, you see the number 1 there, 6 overall, number 1 in class for the limited, is able to get one more spot, passing Toran Jaborison and motorsportfilm.net team to give the Jim Beaver Esports Group Therapy 100 Volkswagen team 6th overall and a class win. Very impressive.
And Chris Leone, like you mentioned, the ringer, getting in at the beginning and the end of the race. He just wanted all the glory. He wanted the glory of the land rush start, and he wanted the glory of the checkered flag. Nothing against it. He just wanted to be the one to make it happen.
Put him in, coach.
Oh, exactly. Andre Borson, Alexander Carver-Robbins, Joshua Abbey, and the rest of the order for that Pro 4 truck class will be on your screen here in just a moment. Timothy Meisimer coming home in second for the Subaru WRX STI class in the Hot Lap Heroes third team. You can take a look down. More Pro 4 trucks in Zegers and Knowles for Elbows Up Simsport and KLM. Josh Edmondson brings the Jim Beaver Esports A-team entry home in the Subaru WRX STI class. Nicholas Cohen comes home third in the VW Beetle Lite class. Taylor Vandenbush grabs the win for the Pro 2 Light class, and Bradley Wilson, Garrett Delve, Gary Sexton all finishing, rounding out the top 20 overall. As we continue to take a look at the rest of these orders going down here, everybody multiple laps down overall, Evan, but end of the day, we did not have an overall gap that was under 1 lap. What a dominating race from Factory Simsport, Keaton Swain and Crystal King, really putting on a clinic, not only in the Pro 4 truck class, but every single class here tonight.
And a big thanks to all of our partners as well for providing the prizes tonight. Race API gave you the winners for each class one setup for their choice of an upcoming week on the iRacing service, as well as our friends at Hot Lap Heroes. Most laps led in each class won $5. I can tell you that your overall winner, Factory Simsport, certainly led the most laps in that class. 2 laps were also led by Connor Berry outside of the race lead, but obviously you don't have the stats immediately on who was ahead in each class for the most tonight, so we don't know the rest of the $5 winners. But I can tell you, if my numbers are correct, remember Martin Sports 906 was given a free pair of sim racing gloves to the members of the team with the overall slowest fast lap. If we do not count Cam Motorsports, who did not get a lap, which I don't think we should, then the slowest fastest lap, Slow Inc. It was meant to be, as they finished 7th in class, but they had the slowest overall best lap with a 1:27.690. Also worth noting that the fastest best lap did go to the Jim Beaver Esports A-team with Josh Edmondson. They put a 1:16.114 down on the board. That is a really solid time. That is actually faster than the real-world race lap record that was set here at Crandon back in the 2018 Red Bull World Cup with Bryce Menzies in a Ford Pro 4 truck. So pretty impressive speed, top and bottom, if you will.
And as sorry.
No, I was gonna say, it's, even though this was a fun race, the level of talent that we have in all these drivers, it was just exciting to see them as well. From that land rush start to the final laps, there was, with all the cars on the track, like you said earlier, Evan, it was the Benny Hill theme, but it was a very exciting Benny Hill, and it was very dramatic Benny Hill as well.
Certainly was an exciting afternoon. I believe we have some of our class winners standing by, and I believe it's going to be with the limited car class winning team representing with Jim Beaver Esports at a Group Therapy 100 team. 6th overall winners in class, the ringer Chris Leone and his teammate Brandon Proudfoot standing by with us. Guys, congrats.
Why are you calling me the ringer? Cam and Brandon put in all the good laps.
Well, you were taking the spotlight, starting the race and finishing the race. So if you're going to take the big pressure moments, don't shy away from the spotlight. Cam didn't even show up. Is he too busy with the champagne or something?
Yes, Cam is procuring the champagne for us. No, the pressure moment was coming up with this freaking race in the first place, man.
I can only imagine. I see people struggle with basic, race sessions here on the service. So I know that this must have been quite an undertaking. Brandon, you there as well?
Yep, I'm here.
What's it like? I guess you guys had to adjust the inside of the car, the headrest area to fit Chris's big ego and all that into the car. And I wonder if that slowed some things down with the seat swaps and whatnot. But what was it like racing with Chris and Cam, and you guys came out on top in your class?
Oh, it was absolutely a blast. Having the 4 different car classes and just how the track evolved throughout the night. The very beginning, obviously your Pro 2s, your Pro 2 lights that have that dirt tire, those guys are really going to be able to take off at the very beginning. And us in the Beetle, we were still spinning a little bit, and those 4 Subarus might as well have been driving on black ice for the first, 10 laps. Makes it really, really interesting. And then as that track broke down, the Pro 4s and the Pro 2s lights, they started pushing a little. Even the Subarus did as well. And it went from the Pro trucks being strong and being able to stay ahead to your rallycross cars, where you normally see the track breakdown that Chris knows so well in IRX, where you see the rallycross cars going for the grip, going to driving that black. And then those Pro trucks, they're having to do the complete opposite. So it's creating crossing lines, constant people crossing over each other, people getting T-boned. It was just an absolute blast.
Asking Chris this earlier and some of the other drivers who we chatted with, right? It's an endurance race, but didn't really look like anybody was racing like an endurance one. Everybody was running into each other the whole time. I mean, did you really have an opportunity to approach this any differently than you normally would, pace yourself, or was it just too chaotic that you just kind of had to roll with the punches?
Roll with the punches, and the only strategy really I think anybody kept an eye on is that nobody in any type of endurance race, whether it's here at the Group Therapy 100 that we did here today or doing the 24-hour series, nobody wants to run out of fuel. I think that's pretty much the only strategy that everybody had, was don't run out of fuel and survive.
And Chris, now that you're on a championship team here, are you going to be going pro now? Is this the direction?
No, yeah. This dollar that I'm going to be paying from myself to myself is the most money that I will ever make in sim racing. Although I do have to say, I gotta call him out because he's my buddy from like a decade ago. Dan Walker on one of the Pretend Racing Online teams. As a joke, I aped Travis Pastrana's bit and I said, I'll bet you $1. And he said, fine, I'll mail you a check. So I can't wait until he mails me that check so I can get it framed on my wall.
I'm looking forward to seeing that on the S2 Motorsport Twitter page. And if it's not there, I'll be very disappointed.
I will too, but Dan, don't worry. I'll scratch out the routing numbers on the photo for you.
You can't let somebody steal the dollar. It's certainly something you guys want to protect. We got a bunch of class winners to talk to, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Before we let you get back to Cam and the champagne, I'm sure he's procured it by now. You guys want to say hi or thanks to anybody? Chris, I know that a lot goes in, especially on your end, to making this event possible.
Yeah, again, thank you, Shenandoah Shine EPI, Martin Sports. Oh God, why am I drawing a blank at the very last second? I feel so bad. Brandon, get our sponsors. I got one more person to thank, and I got to make sure I get it right.
Fistful of bourbon, baby. Winners get whiskey. We finally got Chris one. General Tire, Polaris RZR, Vision Wheel, Next Level Racing, Sans Racing Fabrication for my personal sponsor, and S2 Motorsports. You guys here doing it, Racecraft, doing the broadcast, and Chris, hopefully you got your beans together, because that's all I got.
Hot Lap Heroes, they're paying $5 to all of the people who led the most laps, so appreciate them coming in and just blowing my prize purse out of the but thank you, everybody who watched, everybody who raced. That was chaos. That was a blast. I think we'll do this again. I think we can make this a holiday tradition.
we were already talking mid-race about looking forward to next year. So if you're looking for someone to come in and watch the action, you've got us signed up at least. But Chris, thanks for everything that you and all of our partners who made this event possible did to get this on, and congrats on the good finish. Brandon, thanks as well for stopping by and chatting, and congratulations, guys. You are the limited class winners for the Shenandoah Shine Group Therapy 100.
Woo! Thank you.
So those are our class winners and 6th overall place finishers for Jim Beaver Esports and Group Therapy. Chris Leone standing by with us. And congratulations to he, Brandon Proudfoot, and their third teammate, Cam Peterson. We'll continue with the theme of class winners. The Jim Beaver Esports A-Team, Josh Edmondson and co. coming home as the class winners for the unlimited cars this afternoon. Ian, you're with Josh.
Hey, Josh, first, congratulations to you and Dave on first in the unlimited car class. How did you guys select your car going into this? Did you try the other car classes out, or are you pretty decided from the start?
It was easy to pick for us. We're both pretty fast on the trucks, and we wanted to do something different, try and win one of the other classes, and I like the rally cars too, so I figured we'd give that one a shot. It was definitely a surprise though, with how hard that car is to drive on those tracks, especially when they're fresh. It's so slick.
Gotcha. That actually leads into my next question. Was it easy for you at the beginning of the race, or as it wore on and the track started to wear in?
Oh, it was definitely better in the end of for us. In the beginning of the race, we were slower than even the Beetle Lite. It's just super slick, and the cars have so much power; they get so much wheel spin. It's extremely hard to drive. And then I think at the end of the race, I'm pretty sure we were running the fastest laps of the race. I was passing Pro 4s like they were standing still. It was running like low 116 lap times. So yeah, really fast at the end of the race. The big thing that hurt us though was the fuel in those cars. They burned them so fast. We had to pit after 6 laps initially, and then it was like every 8 laps after that. So every other car just had a massive advantage on how many laps they could do. So fighting for an overall spot was out of the question.
That's something I didn't even consider, was how small your fuel window would be with how large the Crandon track is, though. But going back to the start of the race and that land rush start, was this race more physical than you were expecting, less physical than you were expecting? How did you manage that?
It was about what I expected. I mean, we knew it was going to be a lot of chaos with that many different cars, and the way that they all enter the corners differently and everything, different speeds. It was bound to be chaos, and it was for sure. I was probably spinning around, I don't know, 3 or 4 times the first couple laps, and we got in some incidents that forced us to tow a couple times. I tried to bump draft to Pro 4. That did not work. It sent me off the track into the pits.
Yeah, I saw that. I wondered what happened there.
Oh, I was thinking there was a Pro Lite on the inside, and I was going to just push the Pro 4 around him and not try and put it 3 wide and be safe. And when I bumped the Pro 4, it just turned my car sideways. So yeah, it didn't work.
Yeah, it was that was interesting to say the least, but it didn't hurt you guys that much, because you came home class winners in the Jim Beaver Esports A-Team. Fistful of bourbon Subaru. Is there anybody you want to thank? Who gets it done for you?
Yeah, happy to get that dub. I know it was unfortunate for Trevor and Aishi. They also had some issues, a bunch of issues as well. So, yeah, happy to get the win, though, and thanks to everybody on the team. Fistful of Bourbon, Winners Get Whiskey, General Tire, Polaris Razor, Next Level Racing, Dirtfish, and Vision Wheels.
And that was Unlimited Car Class winner Josh Edmondson. Thanks a lot, Josh.
Thank you.
And Evan, I'll kick it back to you now.
Yeah, that's a chat with our unlimited car class winners. It will continue the parade of victors back to Joshua Lee. Josh standing by with our class winners for the Pro 2 light trucks.
And that is 3 class winners making up the AMX iRacing group. We'll start with Taylor, because you came across the line, finished it off for the team, but it looked like a challenging race. How was it from inside the car?
Oh, that first part of that race was just intense. Not knowing how some of those cars were going to react, and going into turn 1 with all these vehicles. So we just kind of played it safe. And then at the end, there was a lot of chaos going on, but it was a lot of fun.
And Anthony James, you ran this truck as well. Once that groove started to develop, once that track really started to become slick, what became the strategy in that Pro 2 Lite? Because you don't have the advantage of four-wheel drive to help you in that slick condition. You have two-wheel drive in your truck.
Yeah, the plan was just run high, just let everybody by, and just play it safe, because they're going to catch us on the exit of every corner and all that. And so we're just like, and with no being a two-wheel drive, it's hard to in the corners because the truck just pushes everywhere you try to do. And then once you get it figured out, and then next thing you know, you're sliding everywhere. So it was a fun challenge. It was a fun race.
And Nick, over to you for just some final thoughts on this race, because we're taking so many different off-road vehicles, putting them all onto one track, possibly one of the most famous off-road tracks in the world, and we put on some really good racing for the 100 minutes. If we do another one, do you think you and the rest of your team are going to be coming back hoping for more?
Absolutely, without a doubt. We had so much fun running this. It was an absolute blast. It was fun running with this, and I tell you this, it was a true team win between three of us. There was a lot of talking and planning and communication while we were out there of letting these guys by and staying out of trouble and staying clean, that's for sure.
Well, great to hear that all of that work paid off for you. Congratulations on your Pro 2 Lite victory, Taylor Vandenbush, Nick Nowak, Anthony James. Anybody else any of you guys would like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, we'd like to, first of all, thank our sponsors, Just a Trim Lawn Service, PGM Racing, and of course our league we run called AMX iRacing. So,
well, great to hear from all three of you. And once again, congratulations on all of your hard work paying off here and grabbing the win in the Pro 2 Lite class.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Great to hear from that entire team, Evan. AMX iRacing, Anthony James, Nick Nowak, and Taylor Vandenbush. They all worked hard. You could hear it in their voice. They were loving this win. And all four of our class winners, whether it was Factory Sim Sport, whether it was Jim Beaver Esports, whether it was the other Jim Beaver Esports, JBE A team, and AMX iRacing, so much hard work from all those drivers and teams, and just an amazing event Chris Leone and the rest of the Shenandoah Shine team was able to put on.
It was a big thanks again to all of our partners as well who made this possible. Of course, Shenandoah Shine, the title sponsor for this one, the folks over at Yes to Motorsport, Chris Leone, that entire group, Race EPI, Hot Lap Heroes Racing, and Barton Sports 906, all a big part of this one. Again, Factory Sim Sport, your overall champions. Your light unlimited car class champions is the Jim Beaver Esports team. Your unlimited car team champions are the JBE A team. And for the Pro 2, the limited trucks, it's AMX iRacing. What a wild, fun, entertaining afternoon of racing. Ian, I'll go to you first on this one for final thoughts after what we saw as a very unique first. And to echo Chris's point when we chatted with him, I think it should become a holiday tradition. I think we should do it again next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And want to thank both of you guys for having me in the booth. I want to thank Chris for putting it on, and hopefully you'll have me back next year too when we do this again, because this was a lot of fun. From that land rush start of almost 40 cars to the last lap with Crystal King and Factory Sim Sport taking home the overall win. It was really good fun from all these drivers, and it was physical, but really it was a lot cleaner than I think we expected, Joshua. These are some really talented drivers, and they knew how to put on a show.
Every single driver that took the track had some sort of talent. Even the guys at Slow Inc., they knew what they were doing just to get on the track and to be able to run these laps, because especially Evan, once that track slicked off, it became near impossible to run laps, especially in some of the two-wheel drive trucks like the Pro 2 Lites, especially in some of the lower power machines that weren't able to dig through the slick. It became very, very difficult, but ultimately we crowned 4 winners at the end of the day.
And a big thanks to all of our 36 teams and 84 drivers who competed in this afternoon's race. But until next time, that is it for us here tonight for the virtual Crandon International Off-Road Raceway. So one more time, on behalf of the entire Yes to Motorsports group, all of our partners, including Shenandoah Shine, and the entire team at Racecraft TV. For Ian Fisher, for our producer Josh Lee, and for myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in, and congratulations congratulate Factory Sim Sport, piloted by the dominant duo here this afternoon, Keaton Swain and Crystal King, as your overall champions for the Shenandoah Shine Group Therapy 100. Until next time, we say good night from the Badger State. We'll catch you next time on Racecraft TV.